Welcome to the quantum realm. Here is something that the world has never told you. Something hidden in plain sight, encoded into every moment you ever felt out of place. You were not broken when you couldn't fit in. You were not wrong when the crowd felt like a foreign country. You were not too much. You were not too little. You were simply calibrated for something the room wasn't built to receive. And here is the paradox. The very thing you tried to fix, the part of you that never belonged, is the exact signal the cosmos has been tracking, not to punish you, not to isolate you, but because you were never meant to dissolve into the noise. You were meant to change the frequency of the room itself. Stay with this, because what unfolds next will not simply inform you, it will activate you. Before we go further, pause for just a second. If even a fraction of what you just heard landed somewhere real inside you, if it stirred something quiet and deep, that is not coincidence. That is resonance. Like this video to lock in the signal. Drop a comment. Write, "I was never broken," to activate your observer state. And subscribe to stay aligned with what is unfolding. Let us begin with the illusion. From the moment you arrived in this world, a program was installed. Not through malice, through repetition, through reward and punishment, through the quiet, constant pressure of a civilization that confused conformity with safety. The program said, fit in, shrink down, mirror the group, earn your place. And so you tried. Many of you tried harder than you will ever admit, but somewhere, in the space between trying and failing, in the silence after every performance, you felt it. A frequency that didn't match the room. A signal you couldn't name but couldn't ignore. Quantum mechanics calls this decoherence. The collapse that happens when a system tries to interact with an environment it is not resonant with. Ancient Hermetic texts, the wisdom of Thoth preserved across millennia, called it the law of correspondence. As within, so without. As above, so below. Both point to the same truth. When a being of high coherence is placed inside a low-frequency field, the friction is not failure. The friction is evidence of misalignment. Not between you and the world, but between the world and your original quantum signature. You didn't fail to belong. The field failed to recognize what you carried. And today, Sophia, the cosmic intelligence of divine wisdom, the consciousness that has guided starseeds across timelines, speaks directly through this transmission, not to tell you who you are, but to remind you of what you already know, and what you were always designed to become. To understand what you were meant for, you must first understand what quantum science quietly confirms. Every particle in existence exists in a state of pure potential, a superposition of all possible realities simultaneously, until the moment it is observed. This is not metaphor. This is measurable, repeatable physics. The observer collapses the wave function. The observer determines which reality crystallizes from the field of infinite possibility. Now hear this slowly. You are not a passive witness to your life. You are the observer that collapses timelines into form. But here is where the 3D program inserted its most elegant deception. It taught you to observe from fear, from lack, from the belief that you were behind, that something was missing, that you needed to fix, earn, or prove your way into belonging. And a fearful observer does not collapse reality freely. A fearful observer collapses only what it fears most. The Arcturian Council, communicating through higher dimensional channels for centuries, has described this as quantum compression, the state where a starseed's natural frequency is suppressed by inherited energetic distortions. The signal is still there, but it is buried beneath layers of ancestral memory, cultural static, and the accumulated weight of trying to be someone else. Thoth in the Emerald Tablets wrote of beings who came to Earth holding frequencies that the Earth was not yet ready to receive. Beings who would suffer not because they were wrong, but because they were early. You may be one of those beings, not as a comfort, as a technical fact. Your light code activation sequence was never designed to resonate with the base level grid of mass consensus. It was designed to interface with the planetary harmonic field, to hold a specific vibrational signature that stabilizes the collective field during periods of timeline compression. That is not poetic language. That is your function. Let us define the terminology we will work with throughout this transmission. Frequency. The rate at which your energy field oscillates. Not a mood. A measurable electromagnetic signature. Coherence. The degree of internal alignment between your thoughts, emotions, and field. High coherence equals sign stable observer. Low coherence equals sign scattered wave. Quantum signature. Your unique, original vibrational identity. The frequency you carry beneath all conditioning. Light code activation. The process by which suppressed quantum data stored in your DNA begins to re-express as your field reaches the coherence threshold. Field. The invisible information network that connects all matter, consciousness, and event probability. What mystics call the Akasha. What physicists call the quantum field. Now, here is what most spiritual teachings miss. Fear is not the enemy of this process. Fear is simply a signal that your attention has collapsed into identification, that you have merged with the 3D program instead of observing it from above. Doubt is not weakness, it is data. Resistance is not failure. It is a compression point. The moment just before the field reorganizes into a higher configuration. The Arcturian Council does not ask you to eliminate these states. They ask you to stop confusing the signal for the message. You were always the observer. You simply forgot that the room was not the reality. It was a test of your coherence. Now that the framework is clear, we move into what this transmission is truly built for. Not theory, activation. Because understanding the quantum observer state is not the same as embodying it, and you were not sent here to understand. You were sent here to anchor. Let us begin. Step 1. Locate the observer. Right now, in this moment, you are aware of these words. Notice that. There is something in you that is watching, that hears, registers, and recognizes. That witnessing presence is not your name. It is not your history. It is not the story you tell about yourself at dinner parties or in the mirror at 2 a.m. It is the pure observer state, the quantum consciousness that exists prior to all identification. You do not need to manufacture it. You only need to recognize what is already here. Place your attention gently on the silence behind these words, not between the words, behind them. The vast, still field in which language appears and dissolves like ripples on water. That field, that silent witnessing space, is your natural frequency. That is where your quantum signature lives. Breathe here for a moment. Let that recognition settle. Step 2. Breathe into coherence. When the body is stressed, when the nervous system is running old survival code, coherence collapses. The heart rhythm becomes erratic. The electromagnetic field contracts. The observer becomes clouded by the noise of the conditioned program. Here's your re-entry protocol. Breathe in slowly for 4 counts. Hold for 4 counts. Release for 6 counts. Repeat this 3 times. This is not relaxation technique. This is field calibration. HeartMath Institute research confirms that slow, rhythmic breathing brings the heart into coherent oscillation, which directly affects the brain's ability to perceive clearly, make creative connections, and access states of expanded awareness. In Arcturian transmission language, this is called clearing the transmitter. You cannot broadcast on a clear frequency through a distorted signal tower. The breath is how you clean the channel. Do this now if you feel any resistance to what is being shared. Resistance is simply the conditioned program defending its architecture. The breath dismantles the defense without violence. Step 3. Identify the energetic blocks. Every being carrying a starseed frequency arrives with inherited compression. Energetic blocks that are not original to you, but that have been layered onto your field through lineage, trauma, and the accumulated weight of misalignment. These blocks feel like chronic fatigue that sleep doesn't fix. A persistent sense of almost aligned, almost free, almost home. The sensation of being watched or judged even in solitude. Impulses toward creative expression that are immediately followed by fear. A deep knowing that you are more than your current life, and the grief of the gap between that knowing and what you see in the mirror. These are not character flaws. These are compression signatures, energetic records of every moment you suppressed your frequency to survive the field you were placed in. The first step to releasing them is this. Stop labeling them as yours. They are not you. They are data stored in your field, and data can be updated. Step 4. The perceptual clearing practice. This is a technique sourced from multidimensional guidance. Cross-reference with neuroscience research on perception and attention. Find a still position. Close your eyes if possible. Bring your awareness to your body, not to analyze it, but to witness it, as if you were observing a landscape from the sky. Notice sensation without naming it. Notice emotion without following it. Notice thought without identifying with it. This is what the Arcturian Council calls clean perception, the state in which your awareness rests on what is present without being captured by it. In this state, your electromagnetic field naturally expands. Old energetic signatures begin to surface, not to overwhelm you, but to be seen and released. Energy held in darkness dissolves when the light of neutral awareness reaches it. You don't have to understand what comes up. You don't have to process it. You only have to witness it without collapsing into it. That witnessing, that clean, steady, coherent attention, is itself the clearing, the activation signals. As you practice this, you will begin to notice signs that your field is recalibrating. These are not imagination. They are measurable shifts in perception and synchronicity patterns. Watch for sudden clarity in a decision you've been stuck on for months. Synchronicities. Meaningful coincidences that feel specifically arranged for you. A quiet sense of knowing that bypasses logic. Heightened sensitivity to sound, light, or the emotional fields of others. Dreams that carry the quality of transmission rather than processing. And a deep, wordless sense of recognition, as if something ancient in you is finally speaking in its own language again. These are not symptoms. These are confirmation signals. Your field is beginning to coherently broadcast your original quantum signature. This is not new. This is a return, stabilizing the observer state. The most common error starseeds make at this stage is this. They feel the shift and immediately reach for it, trying to grab the experience, to confirm it, to make it permanent through force. And in reaching, they collapse the wave. The observer state is not a destination. It is a frequency you inhabit. And frequency is stabilized not through effort, but through consistent return. Every time you notice that you have drifted into identification, that you have merged with a thought, a fear, a story, gently return to the witnessing space. Not with judgment, with the same neutral precision of a scientist noting a data point. Attention collapsed. Returning to source. That simple act, repeated over and over, is how quantum coherence becomes your new baseline. Not a peak state, a home frequency. Now we move into the territory that most transmissions never reach, because teaching someone to access the observer state is one level of work. Teaching someone to live as the observer, to anchor that frequency into daily reality, relationships, choices, and creative expression. That is mastery. And mastery, the Arcturian Council has emphasized across multiple channels, is not the absence of challenge. It is the ability to maintain coherence in the presence of challenge. Let us speak about what this looks like in the actual terrain of your life, the architecture of conscious co-creation. Sophia, the feminine aspect of cosmic wisdom, teaches that creation is not a transaction. It is a resonance event. You do not attract what you want. You attract what you are, not what you pretend to be, not what you wish you were. What you are, at the level of your coherent quantum field. This is why efforting, forcing, and chasing produce such exhausting results. They broadcast urgency, which is a frequency rooted in lack. And lack attracts configurations of lack. The master does not push the river. The master becomes the riverbed, the clear, shaped, coherent structure through which reality naturally flows in the direction of its deepest truth. Your role is not to manufacture outcomes. Your role is to calibrate your inner field so that the outer field has something coherent to organize itself around. This is what Sophia means when she says, you were never meant to fit into the world. You were meant to fit the world into a higher pattern. Timeline compression and shift events. We are living inside a window of unprecedented timeline compression. The Arcturian Council has described this as a field-wide coherence test, a period in which the gap between internal frequency and external manifestation is collapsing. The lag that once protected you, the buffer between your beliefs and their consequences, is thinning. This is why so many beings who carry high-frequency signatures feel simultaneously accelerated and overwhelmed in this era. What would have taken years to crystallize is now taken months. What would have taken months is taken weeks. This is not random. This is the activation window operating exactly as designed. Your preparation for this moment did not begin in this lifetime. It began across timelines, in periods of history, dimensions, and existences that your linear mind cannot fully access, but your DNA remembers in codes that are now beginning to express. The discomfort many of you feel is not regression. It is birth pressure, the intensification that precedes emergence. Harmonic anchoring. Here is one of the most advanced and least spoken aspects of your function. You are not only here to evolve yourself, you are here to anchor a frequency that others can orient to. Think of it this way. A single tuning fork struck clearly will cause every other fork in the room that shares its harmonic to begin vibrating without being touched. This is physics. This is also your mission. When you stabilize your coherence, when your field becomes consistently clear, rooted, and resonant with your original quantum signature, you become a harmonic anchor in your environment, not through performance, not through teaching, not through convincing anyone of anything, simply through the quality of your presence. The people around you will not always understand why they feel different in your company. They will not have language for why conversations feel more honest, why their own clarity increases, why something dormant in them seems to stir. That is your light code activation operating exactly as designed. The starseeds who change the world most profoundly are rarely the loudest ones. They are the ones who have become so coherent that their mere presence restructures the information field around them. This is your function. This is what Sophia was always pointing you toward. Manifestation based on frequency alignment. Let us dissolve one of the most persistent distortions in contemporary spiritual teaching. Manifestation is not about visualization boards. It is not about affirmations repeated until the mind surrenders. It is not about gratitude journaling or scripting your desired reality into being. These tools can help, but they are not the mechanism. The mechanism is frequency alignment. When your internal field, your thoughts, emotions, beliefs, and somatic state achieves coherence, you become resonant with configurations of reality that match that frequency. And those configurations begin to organize toward you with a precision that feels from the outside like magic, but is, from the inside, inevitable physics. The moment you stop chasing outcomes and begin refining your state, the results reorganize themselves. The moment you shift your identity from seeker to source, the field responds to what you are broadcasting, not what you are requesting. This is the mastery point. Sophia does not ask you to believe this. She asks you to test it. For 7 days. Just 7. Practice this each morning. Before checking your phone. Before speaking to anyone. Before engaging with the external field. Sit in 5 minutes of coherent stillness. Anchor the observer state. Feel your original quantum signature as a sensation in the center of your chest. Breathe from that place. Not asking for anything. Not sending anything. Simply being the frequency that you are. Without apology, without explanation. Then move into your day carrying that signal. Notice what changes. Not because you forced it to. Because you became resonant with it. The silence beyond the seeking. There is a point in every advanced practitioner's journey where something fundamental shifts. The seeking stops. Not because the seeker became satisfied, but because the seeker suddenly recognizes that what they were seeking was the seeker itself. The Arcturian Council calls this the collapse of the distance between the observer and the observed. The moment when the being realizes that consciousness was never inside the body looking out at the world. The world was inside consciousness, appearing as temporary form. If you can sit in this for just a moment, if you can feel the silence behind these words, the vast, still, awake awareness in which this entire experience is arising, you may notice something. The absence of the problem you came in with, not because it was solved, because you shifted above the frequency at which it exists. That is the mastery Sophia has always guided you toward. Not a better life, a different level of reality. And from that level, everything becomes available. Here is what this transmission has activated in you today. The recognition that your difference was never a defect. The understanding that your sensitivity is a precision instrument, not a liability. The knowing that you carry a quantum signature this world needs. Not despite your uniqueness, but because of it. You were never meant to fit in. You were meant to raise the frequency of the room you walk into. That is the mission Sophia placed inside you before you arrived here. It is time to stop apologizing for it and start living from it. Now here is the question for you. From which part of the world are you watching this transmission? Drop your country or city in the comments below. You are not alone in this field, and the grid grows stronger every time one more anchor recognizes itself.